Lesson 8.7, Solve One-Step Inequalities. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to solve inequalities with one step. You'll either be using addition or subtraction, or multiplication and division. Whenever you have an inequality, if you choose to add something to one side of the inequality, it has to remain balanced. So you would have to add that same amount to the other side. For example, in this one, if you're going to add 4 to the left, you would have to add 4 to the right. That would keep your inequality true. If you're going to subtract in an inequality, you would do the same. You would subtract the same amount from both sides. It's all about keeping balance. The same applies for multiplication and division. If you're going to multiply, let's say 5 times 2, you would have to do the same to the other side of the inequality. You would have to do 10 times 2. That keeps the inequality true and balanced. Now let's say you decide to divide. In this instance, we're going to divide 16 by -2. You would have to do the same to the other side. Otherwise, it'll no longer be a true inequality, or you'll have some discrepancies. So be very careful with that. In the first example, you have x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 10. Well, our goal here is to keep your variable all alone. So you're going to do that by getting rid of that 7. Since it's adding 7, the way you get rid of it is you subtract 7. That makes it go away, and all you're left with is your variable. But remember, we need balance. If you're going to subtract 7 from the left side, you have to do the same on the right side. So we have to do 10 minus 7. And your answer is 3. Now if you look at it carefully, you now have an inequality that you can graph on a number line. X is greater than or equal to 3. And remember one thing that I've taught you in class. If you have greater than or equal to, the point on your number line will be solid. Whenever it's less than or equal to, it's a solid point on your number line. If it is less than, greater than, just the regular symbols that you've been accustomed to, it would be an open circle. The second thing is, since the greater than symbol is pointing to the right, you would shade in everything on the right of your point on that number line. In the second example, you have a subtraction problem. And the way that we would isolate the letter x, your variable, is by doing the opposite of subtracting. You would add. So we're going to add 3, and that pretty much cancels it out. Because remember the properties that we've talked about, if you were to add opposites, it becomes 0. But we need balance. If you're going to add 3 to the left, you have to add 3 to the right. Once you've done that, your final result is x is less than -6. And as I told you in the other slide, if you look at the less than symbol, that would be an open circle on your number line. It's pretty much telling me that you can pick any number on that number line except 6 or anything greater than that. It can be any number smaller than that. Anything on that blue section of your number line. Now let's focus on multiplying. What is the opposite of multiplication? It would be division, right? So if I'm multiplying -5 times x, I want to get rid of that -5. So I'm going to do the opposites. I'm going to divide -5 by -5. And that just magically makes it go away. And you're left with the variable. On the right side, I have to do the same. 45 divided by -5. But there's a twist. Something very, very weird happens when you divide by negatives. The variable all of a sudden changes direction. If it was less than before, now it's greater than. And you'll be seeing that from time to time. Remember that. If you divide by a negative, reverse the symbol. If you need to, take a screen capture of this particular slide because it is pretty tricky. And then we graph our final product. The greater than or equal symbol means you use a solid point, and you would shade everything to the right of -9. Now what's the opposite of division? That would be multiplication. So to get rid of that 8 and isolate your variable and keep it all by itself, you would multiply by 8. And that cancels it out. But remember, you have to have balance. So you'd have to multiply the 3 times 8 as well. And there are no fancy rules here. We don't have to switch the inequality symbol. You would just be left with x is greater than 24. And your solution on the number line is right there. It's an open circle, shaded to the right. As always, please be sure to subscribe to my channel, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave one at the comment section below.